Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about permissions and logins and how we manage those within SQL Azure. Now it's very similar, if darn near identical, to managing the logins and users within SQL with a few little caveats. So let's just take a look. Let's go from the beginning here. Where's my slideshow? So when you sign up for the service, the provisioning process means preparing you and your schema and data and everything for the cloud, for SQL Server, for Azure. So we've got this database named master, right? And when you sign up, you have this login, and it's the server level principal for your Azure server. It is equivalent, whatever you sign up with, to the system administrator. So you can see here when we sign up on our home, our server home, you can see here the server name. We got some information here where I created my server in South Central US. I've got a 3-month free trial telling you the subscription information. I've got 4 firewalls, and I have this login. And let's go and take a look at it. Why not just take a look at it right on the page. So here we are. We've got on my Windows Azure platform portal homepage, right? And there we go. There's my administrator login. So let's go from the current slide. So again, I just mentioned that the login is similar to the server level SA for an instance of SQL Server on your on-premises database. And for those of you who are familiar with managing logins and security within SQL Server, the SA is the all-powerful login. All right. It's why also I wanted to mention why many people consider SQL Azure and moving stuff to the cloud, moving data to the cloud and schema. It's kind of a 300 to 400 level type situation where because there's so many little things involved, like when we move our data to the cloud, and we've got these little caveats that you'll see with Azure that are just slightly different, just enough to throw you off if you're not familiar with it. Even if you are familiar with it, sometimes it kind of you're like, oh wow, that's interesting. Alright, so let's get back to the slides. So the SQL Server Azure level principal account always has permissions to manage all server level and database level security. So we'll call this administrator login, like the Super SA. So let's take a look here to, this is, you can see over on here, you can see I have this is my Azure server, right? Okay, I've opened up a window here. This is just a simple query window. So a database is associated with SQL Server Azure may reside on a separate physical computers in Microsoft data centers. Alright, so the master database keeps track of logins. Well, that's not unlike it does on your on-premise database, and which logins have permissions to create databases. Remember, if you look right here, again on this slide, there is only one system database, right? And it's the master, and he's in charge. And he houses all this login and password information. So it says here on the next bullet point, the master database keeps track of logins and which logins have permissions to create databases. The master database also we have our familiar the SQL sys logins and the sys database views to see what's going on, to see the views and the logins and all the associated information with those logins. Alright, so note the password must be strong or you're going to receive a validation failure. So let's go and watch that take place. So we're here, we've got, now let's just break this down. Alright, don't make it any more difficult or any more involved, so let's just look one line at a time. So we're going to create a login, right? So that login will be here at the server level, right? Users are created at the database level. So if I drop down here and I go to security and I go to users, you can see Doug isn't here. Doug has a login, but he's not no permission. He's not a user on this particular database, so he can't access it. if we go down to security on this particular database, this user, we can see Doug does have access. All right. So again, if you're not familiar with SQL Server, think logins at the server level, logins stored in the master database, users at the database level. All right, just get used to that. So let's create a login. Let's create a login name to we don't have a mic there, do we? We need a mic. All right, so now let's watch what happens when we don't make a strong password. We'll call this weak. Bunk, bunk, weak. So when we make a weak password, we get a password validation fail. Sorry, doesn't meet it. You're gonna have to do something better than that. So how about I like strong pass 32. That's pretty strong, right? So let's create Mike with this password, name, password, and now let's see if Mike shows up. And he does. All right, so what do? We created a login. Now, again, if you're not familiar with the terminology, the vernacular, whatever you want to say, with SQL Server, this could be a little, you're going to have to go and do a little reading about logins or watch some videos specifically geared towards managing logins and roles and database permissions. So the key point here is the login is at the server level. All right, he has no rights now. Mike has no rights. I can't get to the database and do anything. I'm not here. Let's refresh. Nope. So now look at this. So now we want to create a user, right? Create user. Mike. I want to create it the same, right? From login, Mike, right? So I want to base it on the login I just created, right? This login, that's what I want to base it on. All right, so now what if you run it here? Well, if you run it here, where does it get created? Oh, well, yes, it's kind of unique, huh? It gets created in the master database. Well, we wanted Mike to have access to the AdventureWorks database here. So let's right click. Let's do a new query. Let's paste him. And let's create the user Mike, the name here of the user, from the login, Mike, user from login. So if we come here and we go to security and we refresh, there we go. There's Mike. Now still we've created a user. All right, no, we're not done. We're not done. We can't do anything with that. And let's see. I like strong pass 32. Let's connect to the database engine with Mike. Maybe if I cut and paste this, will it let me cut and paste? Let's see if it'll let me cut and paste the password, because I'm obviously fat fingering it. So let's try to log in again. Let's log in to the server, and his name is Mike. Oh, it will. What? All right, so we actually do have to we actually have to create a user for him to log in into the master database. So let's see if we can drop down, create user Mike into the master database. It will not let us do that. It will in 2012. This is 2008 R2. It will not. So let's go to the master database. Let's create the login. So now let's try this again. Let's connect. Let's copy our password over here, right? Copy him. let's log in, connect to our cloud with our login name Mike, password, remember the password, and we are in. And now when we drop down, we have, what do you mean we don't have rights? We can't see anything. Let's hide this. This is Mike. This is MicOS 32. This is the super user, right? And this is Mike, the user and login we just created. But apparently he can't see much, right? He can't see the same tables. I can. Let's go up here, and if we click on the AdventureWorks database, I can see all the tables, can I? Sure. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to take one final step, right? We have to add him to a role so he can see those tables. So let's go to add him to the data reader role to see if he can. So let's go and say Mike, add role member database, add role member, and let's make sure I am Mike West. Yep. Okay. Why? Well, because it's not in the master database. However, it certainly is here, isn't it? Yes, they are. Roles are here. So let's click on the AdventureWorks database. Let's paste it. Let's add the data reader role. So now let's come down here and refresh. So again, why this is tricky, why it can be tricky, is because if you're not familiar with the security levels, and you can see how easy it is maybe to get tripped up, because we had to do several things. We first had to create a login. We had to create a user, and once we created the login and user, that user Mike still couldn't do anything. So we had to go and add Mike to be a member of a role where he could do something, and we just added him to the data reader. So now Mike can come down here. He's logged in. See, we're logged in as Mike here, and he can do a select and look at these tables, right? He can read. All right, so let's go back. Where are we in time? All right, so I don't think I want to take more time for this video. I think we did a good job there. Might be something you have to watch a few times, or it might be something, if you're not familiar with SQL Server, that you really need to go back and dig in for 2012 or 2008 R2 and learn the security models, learn how logins work, and learn how the users work, and all the roles associated with the databases, and the data reader, what can he do, and the data writer, and the DBO. All right. If you're already familiar, then what we did, you'll understand. If you're a DBA, you'll get that and go, oh, okay, great. Just as long as I'm in the master database, just as long as we gave this user access to the master database also, so he could log in, right? Because there isn't only a master database in the cloud. All right, so let's go take a look at our slide to see where we were. All right, here, oh yeah, all right, let's go. This is a Microsoft, oh, get back here. Up. This is a Microsoft graph, and they did a great job here. You can go and do, I think it's on MSDN, or you could just do the differences between security for Azure and for the on-premise, and you can see it's very, very similar. All right, and you can just peruse. You can look at this yourself and kind of do your own. Oh, okay, well, the logins are the same. Oh, there's a master database that I've been speaking about, and it's the only one. The security admin, and then there's a login manager for the database, all right, for Azure. All right, it's a great little slide. All right, so do I have to talk about any of the bullet points in the bottom here? All right, yeah, again, these are because SQL Azure can scale to one or more physical computers. SQL Azure database uses different server level administration. Yep, and we went over how that works. Again, I talked about the above pick from Microsoft and the difference between the logins for Azure and for your on-premise. All right. Moving on. Yeah, we did this. We actually just walked through that. The differences between the where we create the user. All right, and remember, when you create the user, if we would have created, let's go back real quick. Let's end the slideshow here, and let's go back. And remember, we created the login in the master database, remember? And we also created the, not the login, but the user in the master and in AdventureWorks. If we just would have created in the master, he could have logged in. Mike could have logged in to our cloud, but he would not have been able to see anything in the AdventureWorks database, right? Because he needs, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing there. He needs to be a user in this particular database, right? Mike is a user here. Mike has a login. All right, well, he can't see it because Mike doesn't have access to see the logins. Up here, Mike has a login to the master database, all right? So make sure you differentiate logins and users. Make sure you create your login and your user in the master database before you try to log in with that new user, and then assign him the granular permissions, the DBO, the data reader, whatever you need for your application to work. Right. So those roles, let me just mention as we keep going on here, these are exactly the same as your on-premise security roles. All right. So this is created exactly the same in the cloud, data readers, all these, as they are on your on-premise. All right. So we just talked through this, so there's no reason to go through the slide again. Again, these are all the things I explained in what we just showed in our live demonstration. All right, we talked about the objects, the user, and let's see, and that's it. A short but very, very important overview of security. And there we are.